Welcome to the Grow Your Practice podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Chad Madden, owner of Madden Physical Therapy and Breakthrough. Join me each week as we dive into the best practices, systems, principles, tips, and tricks to help you grow your private practice. Today, we're going to talk about getting clear on practice goals and what we're trying to create. We get to talk with a lot of owners, and the majority of us don't have a very clear picture. We know we want things like, a safer profit margin of safety. Maybe we have a hole and we're trying to fill that with a clinician. We feel the pain points. We're seeing that there's declining reimbursement, or we're having trouble with cash sales, or something financial, something with our personnel, something with our marketing, not enough new patients coming through. We're losing a referral source, but we're focused on the pain, and we never take a second. So we spend 99% of our energy focused on the pain. We never even think about what are we really trying to create here. I'm going to share a very powerful exercise with you here, but just out of curiosity, John, you've been in practice now for quite a while. Have you ever written down exactly what you're looking to achieve with your practice?
Yes, I do have my all the way up to my BHAG. I've got my 1-year goal, my 3-year goal, and then my big, hairy, audacious goals as well.
Oh, you just crushed it. Is there one component of that you can share with us?
The one is where I am completely out of the office. So that might be in my BHAG, is where I'm just sitting on a beach and I am a 100% investor.
Let's just clean that up a little bit. By the way, I call that mango tree retirement, which is where you're just, right? It's like I walk away from the practice, I'm sitting under the mango tree and everything is running. That is your personal big, hairy, audacious goal, BHAG. I'm not sure you're necessarily sharing that with every one of your team members.
They might want that too. Actually, they might want that too. I don't know.
All right, great. You put some thought in here. How about for you, Eric? Anything written down for your practice about what you're looking to achieve?
So this sounds like what you had us do for that pro forma exercise when we went through our existing and our goal, like sustainable, and then our ideal practice.
That's
yeah. Say what?
That's a financial exercise, yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, in it, we did picture, in our case, Robin's the owner and I just help out wherever I can, which sometimes means meddling wherever I can. Yeah. But I think for us, this is our dream practice is it's profitable. We can pay our staff well, and we're caring for people in our community well. And, it enables Robin and I to get away when we need to. Some of that's happening now, but I think more of it could be happening in the future.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing. Just as an aside, Eric and Robin, you went through the course, the Profitability Under Pressure, way more detail there. We have more time to go into detail there than what we'll have time for here. Appreciate you sharing. Yeah, I'll share before we get into the exercise. And by the way, I wrote about this years ago in Killer Marketing Secrets. I'll walk you through the original exercise that I had done, and that starts on chapter 2, page 30 in that book. But about 10 years ago, I noticed from talking with a lot of entrepreneurs, not just in private practice, that we basically have 3 big problems that we rotate through as practice owners. The first one is impact. Before, when we're planning the open, we have this idea, likely we were working for somebody else, and we have this idea that, here's how I'm going to change the world with my brand of fill in the blank with physical therapy, dentistry, optometry, whatever our practice is. It's here's how I'm going to change the world. So we focus on impact. The next thing that we tend to focus on is, so after we open, we get knocked around a little bit. We quickly discover that we don't know everything. Now we know what we don't know, right? And we know that we don't know how to hire. We know we don't know how to market. We don't know how to balance our books or do financial planning, reconciliation, etc. Quickly we say, okay, well, I was going to change the world now, and we'll compromise to some sort of financial goal. So it'll be like, and this is exactly what I did in the beginning. If I just made X amount of dollars per year with the practice, that would be enough that my wife could stay home with our growing family, and she wouldn't have to return to work. and she had that option. We typically compromise around a financial goal that may go through a couple steps. In the beginning, it might be, a 6-figure goal. Like if I just made 100K a year or 250, typically I see like the goals are like 100, 300, 500. And then after that, it becomes something different. Eventually we solve the financial issue temporarily. Then it becomes a time issue. I can remember early where it's like, okay, I think it was 113 a year was our goal, and hit that fairly quick. And then Steph pulled me aside and she was like, hey, by the way, I'm going to have another kid here and you're not here. You're working 80 hours a week and this is crazy. And you're going into the office even on a Sunday evening. Like you've got to figure out how to solve the time problem here. So we go impact, money, time. And then I think for a few practices, for a few entrepreneurs, they solve that time problem with systems and having the right team in place and figuring out, they figure out how to build a team, but then eventually they can get back to impact. And that is where, like, if you read the Jim Collins big, hairy, audacious goal comes in, where it's like, here's how I'm going to change the world. It's evolved a lot from what I originally thought I was going to be able to do before I went into business for myself. Having said that, one of the best things that somebody did for me early on is they had me take a sheet of paper, just a standard sheet of paper like this, and you fold it in half. And then on the left half of the paper, you write. So if you're thinking about impact, time, and money, where you're at today. On that original sheet, I wrote down, we're basically doing 115,000, 113,000 a year in profit margin. We have 3 employees. I'm working 83 hours a week, trading 6 days a week. I have very little time with my family, and when I am there, I'm not really present. I just wrote down exactly what life was like today, and I tend to focus on not only impact I'm having, but what my time situation looks like, financial situation looks like for myself in the practice. But we also break that down into what personnel, marketing, and finance. Personnel and marketing are the 2 additions. How many people are on the team? Are they well trained? A lot of different objectives you could bring into there. And then the marketing, what does my new patient flow look like? Should it look like something different? Do I have more new patients than we can possibly schedule? Are we attracting the right mix? There's a lot that you can get into there in thinking through your practice. And I'll give you some sample questions here in a second. So that's the left-hand column is, here's what today looks like. On the right-hand side, you're going to say, if I could wave a magic wand, this is what I want my practice to look like. On our last Grow Your Practice Live, we talked through limiting beliefs and basically 3 steps to handle that. If you recall, the first one is being aware. The second one is looking at the facts and arriving at how you started telling yourself that story. The third one was replacing it with a new story, right? So it's simple 3 steps. And if you think about this, it's looking at today and then replacing it with a new story. And you get to make that anything you want. Typically, when I'm working with an owner on this the first time, and I can remember when I was like, oh, like, am I asking too much? Now, if you would have talked to me like 2 years before that, I was going to change the world and have, 100 locations and have 3,000, a team of 3,000 people and just crush it, knowing very little. But then reality sets in. I was super hesitant to talk about what I really wanted to achieve in my practice when I had gone through this exercise 18, 20 years ago. So uncapped, it's the genie in a bottle. You get one magic wish for what you want your practice to look like. And it's very helpful to go through in detail what you want that to look like. And I'll give you some sample questions here straight from the book. For you yourself, how many hours are you treating? So if you're forced to treat 40, 50, 60 hours a week, how many hours are you treating? It might be 0. You might have the John Kelly goal of 0 treatment hours and 0 management hours, right? But you can go through that. Again, this is at an indefinite point in the future. How many total hours a week are you working? Will this give you enough time to invest with your family? Is there something that you wanted to do? Eric, you mentioned like vacation is a common one for us as private practice owners. Like, I wish I could take a 1 week, 2 week, 4 week vacation and not have to worry about the practice, right? There might be a time element there. Do you have enough time to invest in your health, exercise, do whatever else you need to do to take care of business there? What's your sleep look like? What's your diet look like? Do you have special interest, hobbies, etc.? Maybe you like to fly fish or something along those lines. I'm a fly fisherman, love to do that. There's something else that you're rock climbing, hiking, something else that you want to do. Do you have time to do that? And stress wise, what does that look like for you? Are you less stressed than you are today? And ideally, get in detail about what that looks like for you. Under people, the next section that we look at are your team or your staff. You know, for us, and how I learned to think about this is I think about team members on 4 levels of competency. At the lowest level, I have to show them exactly what to do, right? That's impossible if you have, let's say, 20 team members and you have to micromanage everything that they're doing and tell them exactly what to do. That's not the management that most of us are looking for. On the other side, we have at the very top, we have delegation, which is like, okay, we want to roll out this initiative for HR compliance, legal, billing. We want to roll out RTM. We want to roll out this new cash-based service, and it's purely delegation. When I was going through this, I wanted to have as many level 4 team members as possible that are independent and able to make autonomous decisions, and they have a sense of mastery and autonomy as they're making those decisions. I spelled that out. Do your team, do they bring problems to you, or do they bring you solutions? Are they able to solve problems? Do you carry their problems home with you, right? Are you taking on everything? That's a common one for most of us. Another one is, do they know how much I care about them as a person? That's just personal stuff, something very easy to drop. But do they have a good sense of drive and purpose within their position? Are they well trained? Are they well paid? Eric, you mentioned that. Highly incentivized. Do they know what they're responsible and accountable for? Spelling out in detail in the right half what you want your team to look like is key, because it's nearly impossible to not name it and then magically have it happen.
Before we continue with this episode, here's a word about our course, Profitability Under Pressure.
What are the 4 ways practice owners are increasing their revenue per visit in today's market? Chad Madden here, introducing you to the Profitability Under Pressure program. This is a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a financial system in your private practice to improve your revenue per visit and your bottom line profit margin. Many practice owners like you are facing declining reimbursements and increasing operational expenses. It's more expensive to provide care. This makes it harder to maintain the financial health of the practice. The Profitability Under Pressure program compiles the processes working for practice owners today into one system to help you increase profit margins, regain your time, and help more people in your community. With our program, you'll learn how to conduct a profit leak audit, how to create a plan for profit, and how to use the 4 profit levers to increase your revenue. Plus, you'll enjoy a complimentary 90-day trial of our patient demand software and access to our exclusive Insider Circle community. Don't just take my word for it. Hear from practice owners like Lance Gross, who added $1.1 million to his bottom line, and Peg Ray, who got her finances under control after 4 decades in practice, or Jeff Gersh, who saved time by getting the cheat sheet to increase profitability. Don't let this opportunity slip through your fingers. Apply today for the Profitability Under Pressure program and start increasing your profits by $10,000 or more in just 90 days. Click the link below to join the waitlist now. Secure a more stable financial future for your practice. Apply now and join the ranks of successful PT practice owners who have transformed their businesses with our program. Make sure you apply before the general admission scholarship deadline. Apply today.
Thank you for listening this far. Now back to the episode.
You think about your team, very specific about who you have on your team and what that looks like for you. For the practice, you want to think through, how large is the practice? Are you comfortable with 1 location or 2 locations that are just busting at the seams? Or do you want to have 20 or 200 or 2,000 or whatever it might be? What do you specialize in? What are you known for? I write that on the right side of the sheet as well. The next section is on money. Like financially, what do the finances of the practice look like? For some of us that are maybe towards the tail end of our practice career, our private practice journey, it might be the value of the clinic is how we're thinking about it. We're at a different point. It might be around our revenue, our bottom line, profit margin, or margin of safety. The other thing that I put in here is my wife and I had an initiative around what we wanted to do in the community in terms of giving, tithing, whatever you want to call it. For us, what is important to us is underprivileged children, disadvantaged youth. We ended up starting a foundation and we just flow money to that every year. At the end of the year, we write a check for that. That's what was important to us. That never would have happened if we didn't first write down what it is that we were trying to achieve. So we have that in there. You can do the same thing. I'm sure you have interests that are special interests for you. You might even have a personal financial income goal in there. Maybe something around your 401k or 529 or whatever that might be. We wanted to have a situation where our kids, and we have a lot of kids, so it's a lot of college, a lot of tuition that we're putting out into the world. So we wanted to have that handled. You might have a goal around that. And the final section that I have here is around marketing. For us, this is really crazy, but after I went through this exercise, the one thing that I wanted to be known for that I wrote down was back pain and sciatica. Shortly thereafter, I started creating back pain and sciatica videos and putting them on this new thing called YouTube. So this was like the early days of YouTube. And then a couple of those went viral. And I mean, it's still running. I still get a Google check every month, which is kind of crazy for videos that I made like 14 years ago. That came from, we wanted to be known as like the place to go for back pain and sciatica. And I just wrote that down. Now, if you feel dissuaded in any way from writing down what it is that you're trying to achieve, because what do they call, like woo-woo, like that's the way to disparage the idea right away. There is a lot written on this in almost every world religion. I have a lot of books. I'm a avid book collector, early 1900s, late 1800s, a lot on this. The concept at the time, you can get into like early Napoleon Hill stuff, and they talk about ether, which is completely disproved. Nonetheless, the idea was like, if you write down what it is that you're trying to achieve, there is something magical that happens in this. You can go back to, Earl Nightingale in the 1950s talked about this idea. I mentioned Napoleon Hill, magic of thinking big. Claude Hopkins, I might have messed up the last name there of the author there, but there are a lot of books around this idea, this concept, that if you have a very clear goal, something worthwhile to work towards, and you write it down and you review it frequently, much more likely to happen. And I'll give you one more story. Little known fact is I'm a very mediocre athlete, but I got to be around a ton of amazing athletes growing up. And some of them I didn't even realize like what was happening at the time. My junior year in high school, right around the time I was deciding to become a physical therapist, I wrestled, and I wrestled for Central Dauphin, ended up being one of the biggest programs in the country, tons of state champion winners and sending kids D1 all over the country. In the early mid 90s, that it was not that yet. We had an assistant coach, and his name was Wade Chalice. Wade Chalice at one point was in the Guinness Book of World Records as the greatest wrestler of all time. In 1976 and 77, which is a long time ago, he pinned 12 of 13 people on the way to winning 2 world titles. He was the only American to medal, and it was in a world dominated by Russians and Eastern Bloc, just crushed wrestling. He was our assistant wrestling coach. And I happened to, my wrestling partner was Freddie Hartice, and it was the Hartice family that ended up hiring Wade and bringing him in. Freddie went on to have a show, I think it's still on, called The Hollywood Hunter. He has like a real life hunting show, and his ex-wife was Jeannie Mai, who hosted Miss America. Kind of a crazy small world story here in Harrisburg. But one of my favorite experiences with Wade, who spoke at one of our events here in Orlando 4 or 5 years ago, was when he was growing up. He was a JV wrestler, and I think his freshman year he finished like 12-0, had 12 pins. He was working out. He would work out before school, and he would work out after school. He wasn't a varsity wrestler yet, and he was frustrated. And his mom, and he edifies his mom constantly and how amazing she was as a teacher and person. She sat him down and had him close his eyes. And he told this story at our event. She walked him through like what it would be like if he were representing the United States, Team USA, in the Olympics. And she had him visualize walking through the tunnel with the American flag draped over his shoulders, that he's carrying the flag, and what it would mean to represent the country and win a gold medal. He never won a gold medal. He won 3 Olympic US trials, but was never able to wrestle in the Olympics for a neck fracture. We didn't go to Moscow. We didn't send wrestling to whatever that was, 80 or 84. And there was something else happened in one of the other ones. But the key is, he was like, here I was a JV wrestler in high school. When she told me that and I had that vision, it changed all of my other behavior. All of a sudden, I wasn't staying after practice just to say that I put extra work in. He was like, I was already a world champ in my mind, because she had ingrained in me and told me this story that I was a world champ. And all of his behaviors changed based on this idea of who he was. He went from thinking, I'm an undefeated JV wrestler, to I'm a world champ. And it dramatically changed. And I'm doing a disservice to the way that Wade tells the story, because I think it gives everybody chills when he told that. But we should be going through that same exact thing as a practice owner when we have a business. We can't aimlessly show up to work every day, not know what we're creating, and then magically have it happen. You're going to have to write down and put some thought into it. Give yourself 30 minutes, an hour to sit down and write down, here's where I'm at today on the left-hand sheet of the paper, and then this is what I'm looking to achieve. Is that helpful to go through for you? I'll give you one other idea. There's a Dan Sullivan, I think it's called Strategic Coach. We have work with a lot of owners that have been through their training. Somebody sent me a book called The Gap in the Gain, and I'm not affiliated with Strategic Coach or Dan Sullivan in any way. I did read the book, and I slept at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so this will come across well. In all seriousness, they talk about this idea of the gap in the gain, and I find it to be very true applied to private practice. The gap is the difference between where we're at today and where we want to be, and the gain is about how far we've come in the past. It is very easy to lose the gain, to just be blind to that and miss that we're likely farther ahead in our private practice than we were a year ago or 5 years ago, right? So we tend to forget about that, and we focus on what it is that we don't have. So we focus on the lack thereof, or the vacuum. That makes progress very difficult. So the whole idea of that book is that we need to remind ourselves, like, as we're making progress, maybe we set a very lofty goal and we're at 1 practice today and we're seeing 30 visits a week. Our goal is that we have 10 locations and we're, doing 2,500 visits a week. Right. So we have this very lofty goal and we're not there yet. And we say, oh, I'm a failure, rather than say, okay, I was at 30 visits a year ago. We're now at 120 visits. I'm moving well towards where we want to be. So just one final point there. It's very easy to go through the exercise, be on your journey, and then miss out on how far you've come up to this point, even if you're only a few days or a few months in. What questions do you have?
Not a question, but I read that book as well. And thank you for reminding me of it, because it is good to look at where you came from. And it's not always, you may not get where you want to get in your time frame, but you've made progress, and acknowledging that is very important.
Yes.
No.
Thanks for
Sorry, I
sharing.
missed the first half. I was doing an interview.
Did the interview go well?
Yeah. I had text me last night going, I'm done and I'm not going to be in tomorrow. I'm like, oh my God.
I was hoping that it was texting an application, but okay. Yep. Gap in the gain. Got it. The first half is going through an exercise of talking about where you're at today, getting very specific about that across yourself personally and across your practice. The second half of the sheet, the right half of the sheet, is writing down exactly what it is that you want to accomplish. Here's where we're at today. 10 staff members. Here's where we want to be tomorrow. 18 well-trained staff members, etc.
Perfect. Yep.
Great.
Good stuff.
Any other questions?
Nope, that was good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. My pleasure. Eric, always a pleasure. Appreciate you being on. And yeah,
See you in Denver in a couple weeks.
Yeah, well, thank you for reminding me. We will be in Denver. I have a pretty busy here, September and October coming up. So couple events that will be at September 12th through 14th. We're hosting an event. Breakthrough's hosting an event. We are in Denver, Colorado. We'll be going over, and this is primarily for our owners that have been through our program, Profitability Under Pressure, which there is a deadline coming up here shortly. We have a deadline August 30th, which is our general scholarship. And we also have the final date will be September 20th for enrollment in our Profitability Under Pressure. Otherwise, great. Thanks, everybody. And I'll see you next week.
Thanks.
What are the 4 ways practice owners are increasing their revenue per visit in today's market? Chad Madden here, introducing you to the Profitability Under Pressure program. This is a 90-day masterclass designed to help you build a financial system in your private practice to improve your revenue per visit and your bottom line profit margin. Many practice owners like you are facing declining reimbursements and increasing operational expenses. It's more expensive to provide care. This makes it harder to maintain the financial health of the practice. The Profitability Under Pressure program compiles the processes working for practice owners today into one system to help you increase profit margins, regain your time, and help more people in your community. With our program, you'll learn how to conduct a profit leak audit, how to create a plan for profit, and how to use the 4 profit levers to increase your revenue. Plus, you'll enjoy a complimentary 90-day trial of our patient demand software and access to our exclusive Insider Circle community. Don't just take my word for it. Hear from practice owners like Lance Gross, who added $1.1 million to his bottom line, and Peg Gray, who got her finances under control after 4 decades in practice, or Jeff Gersh, who saved time by getting the cheat sheet to increase profitability. Don't let this opportunity slip through your fingers. Apply today for the Profitability Under Pressure program and start increasing your profits by $10,000 or more in just 90 days. Click the link below to join the waitlist now. Secure a more stable financial future for your practice. Apply now and join the ranks of successful PT practice owners who have transformed their businesses with our program. Make sure you apply before the general admission scholarship deadline. Apply today.